All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And good morning from California, everyone. Yeah, wherever you're watching. It is morning time in Cali. So, however you're taking us in, we love having you here. And when I say we, I'm talking about Albert.
Albert, thank you.
Who is here today. You know, there's always that question on the schedule.
That's not fake. That's real.
I'll be honest, sometimes I don't even know who's on the show. You know, I mean, I'm talking about the people who work here. And Kim is here, of course.
Kim, how are you?
Kim, watching all news events for us. There's a lot going on, my friends. We will cover a good deal of it today, and we'll cover it with the rabbi, the sexy beast himself, bottom of the hour.
Whoa.
John Rothmann comes through. That's right. I know. You love your Rothmann. We'll have him bottom of the hour. And we also have stories out of the Bay Area regarding big money leaving the Bay Area. And that's sort of a story that's been done before a bit and kind of continues to be a concern. But where the money's going is interesting. And I don't think it's necessarily that great a place for these people, but we'll get to that. The care courts also launching. They're behind schedule, but they will, you know, that's that program by which you can essentially put somebody in a kind of facility or in a situation where they will have access to mental health and strategies to bring them out of whatever oftentimes psychological crisis they're in. Anyway, we'll get to all of that. And I also have some news in the next hour about politics and state politics and some new polls that are out. I'll touch on some of that with John Rothmann, so there is much to do. Smash the like button for us. You can
with your iron rod.
You can just take your iron rod and smash it like a boss.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Give us a thumbs up. Costs you nothing. We are, as you're aware, a crowd-funded show, so thanks to those of you who have thrown us a couple of dollars. By the way, we are closing in on our goal. You know, we just need 11,000.
I just want to find 11,780.
And we also, want to find the same in subscribers. So we passed the 11,300 mark yesterday, late yesterday. We passed that. I got that email, so I just want to find 11,700.
I just want to find 11,780.
Which brings me to you watching. I'll remind you, if you can share the show on Facebook, if you can send it to people and say, hey, do me a favor, subscribe to the show. I like it. Maybe you want to check it out too, but either way, subscribe. It costs you nothing. That helps us. I don't understand this world of YouTube, but I guess the more subscribers you get, it will turn into, at some point, revenue, so that would be great as well. So that's that. Let's get started.
The Mark Thompson Show.
You know, I yield to no man in my love and respect for this guy. I've been a fan since, it's funny, I was doing a deep dive yesterday because I wanted to bring him on with like a little compilation reel from his days at Eyewitness News in New York. Because that's when I used to watch Spencer Christian, Eyewitness News in New York. Roger Grimsby.
Wait, Mark, are you talking about the link? Because you sent me something, you wanted me to run something from Spencer, but there was no video. You just sent me timestamps. So.
Of course, that's so on brand for me. And yet still it's your fault.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
Well, just imagine the legends of local news in New York. And on the set, the great Spencer Christian. He's with us now. Spencer Christian.
What an intro. I love it. I love you guys.
I loved you then. I mean, you've just, that was pre-GMA, actually.
Yeah. I think about those days a lot, Mark, because, I arrived in New York, the #1 market. I was still in my late 20s and working with these legendary figures, Roger Grimsby and Bill Beutel. And those are just very special. I have some links to some of those old newscasts from the 70s from YouTube. I can send them to you.
Please do. Please do. For future, I mean, I could talk about this stuff with you, that period of your career, forever, because I was watching local news then.
Yeah.
And so, I grew up with Warner Wolf and
Right,
all those
right.
guys, So for me, seeing your career evolve to GMA and then to the Bay Area, and now you're a Bay Area institution as well. I mean, it's wild how a career can encompass so many things. But to me, that thing you did at that time, weather, then you did sports for a while, I think, and you were really one of those guys who could do it all on on Eyewitness. They were #1 newscast, as you say, but those guys, Grimsby and Beutel, and then as I say, Warner Wolf was a legend as well.
Yeah.
Now that's not either one of them. That's Larry. Somebody, who is that?
Larry Kane. Who
Larry
came in
Kane.
for about a year, 78 to 79, and he was anchoring the 11 o'clock Eyewitness News during weeknights. Larry was a good guy and a solid news guy, but he just did not last in New York. New York can be tough on some people, and it never embraced Larry. So Larry,
he's wearing the Circle 7 pin. Do you still have that, Spencer? The one from WABC, I mean.
I don't have the one from WABC.
Oh, that is so disappointing.
What?
I cannot.
But back in the late 70s there and into the early 80s, when Warner Wolf, let's go to the videotape. Hey, come on. He was the
right.
big sports guy at our station, and because he used to include me in a lot of his shtick just before they'd go from sports to weather,
Yes.
the viewers saw Warner and me as a team.
That's it. Now play it. You've got it, Albert. This is just what Spencer's talking about. This is Warner Wolf on Sport.
Warner Wolf is happy tonight. His personal cheering section. Spencer Christian is back after a day off. He had a cold. Tonight, Warner's hot. Hello, Warner.
All right, Larry, give me a break.
Larry,
At the Garden tonight, the Flyers.
Give me a break. That was Warner's thing. Give me a break.
Give me a break.
Hey, yeah.
So
if you had the Miami Heat in 4, you lose. Let's go to the videotape.
That's it. You got it.
Ahead by 20. There's no way. This is his other thing. Right, wrong. I made a bunch of list once of all of Warner's things. Boo of the week. Give me a break. Right, wrong. The right, wrong was Miami Heat up by 12. No way they can lose. Right, wrong. Let's go to the videotape. Just terrific stuff, man. He was, and you can tell just, I think, in your style and mine as well, personality is what we spark to, and people who are personalities, and Warner had a great one. So did you, and that's why you worked, you played in that band so well. So, go ahead, Albert. This is classic Spencer Christian from the 80s.
In the city. However, if the storm stalls, we could have a lot of snow, maybe as much as 8 inches. Here's the forecast for the remainder of tonight. We're calling for clear skies, low temperature between 32 and 37. Tomorrow, we'll have rain and snow developing in the afternoon, continuing through tomorrow night. High between 37 and 42, dropping off sharply in the afternoon. Tomorrow night, more snow, sleet, and rain, low between 27 and 32. Then on Friday...
But it was interesting that those days with that board, those were like magnetic cold fronts and high pressure. It was magnets.
Right. That's right. And I'd have to set the board up before, going on the air. Actually, when I first started doing weather before I went to New York back in the early 70s, I had a plexiglass covered map, and I used to draw the symbols on with a big, like a magic grease pencil kind of thing,
Yeah.
Draw the highs, the lows, the fronts, and it as corny as it sounds, because we're now in the age of technology, high technology, but it was an animated presentation because I was interacting with the map and drawing as I described it, A
different kind of animation.
Yeah,
they brought in a guy to your station, and you were there, I think. At least you were there in New York. I don't know if you were still at Eyewitness News. Named Ira Joe Fisher.
Yes.
So this guy, Ira Joe Fisher, they bring him on, and he did what Spencer's talking about. He has a map, and he's drawing it. And by then, technologies had begun to evolve to a different place. So when you saw somebody drawing a map, it was really that was 5 years ago. But he would draw backward on the map, wouldn't he?
That's
that
right.
Was his superpower was that he could from behind on the plexiglass thing, he would draw the cold fronts and everything would look perfect, but he was actually drawing it in reverse.
That's exactly right. And even the words, he wrote all the words in reverse.
Yeah, it was really cool, but it was kind of a one-trick pony.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true.
I think he did okay. I think he lasted a little while, but
yeah. But
you went.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're talking about how the viewers in New York embraced their local news personalities, and you're right, but only if you were an authentic personality. You know what I mean? And people really felt like they could connect with you, but they could spot a phony in a second. I mean, if you didn't have an authentic personality, you didn't last.
Yeah.
And they also liked people who brought joy to what they did. Like Warner Wolf brought true joy to his work.
Warner was jubilance, man. I love Warner. I could watch him and I will spend many an hour. I think I've probably seen every Warner Wolf highlight on YouTube because I grew up with him. So for me, it's nostalgia, and he's so entertaining. But you were part of that crew, man. As I say, it's like watching a great band get back together. Now, Grimsby passed away, Butel passed away. Those guys from that time are gone.
Yeah,
so all we have is those YouTube clips. And then your career evolved. You went to GMA, and you came to the Bay Area. And when you came to the Bay Area, what was the deal in the Bay Area? Who was were you replacing somebody, or what was
yeah,
what was that?
Peter Giddings.
Peter Giddings. Wow. Yeah. He was a giant, an institution.
He was definitely an institution in this market. And Joe Ahern, who had just taken over as general manager of KGO TV in 1998, contacted me when he found out that GMA was not going to renew me at the end of that year. And he told me he was having difficulty with Pete Giddings and contract negotiations and all that. He said, "If I don't renew this guy, would you be interested in coming out here?" And I said, "Well, I have no other place to go. If GMA doesn't renew me, there's no other job for me here in New York." So yeah, so that's how all that happened.
Well, Giddings, I was on the air against Giddings. Okay, so we were on at the same time.
That's right, you were.
And Giddings was really like just a blast, like I don't know, like a jet blast of information. Okay. I was more explaining, and I was more personality. Okay. I did a lot of live remotes and all that sort of thing. So we both had our lane, which was good, but man, he was a tough character. He was a tough personality.
He was a force of nature.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then your world, and then I'm getting to the podcast, which is why I'm taking a little walk through the Spencer Christian's world. Because he just did win an award. Then you always had this abiding interest in wine. Now you're in the Bay Area, right? And you're now close to some of the greatest wines in the world. And did you begin to sort of interlock with that world, the wine world, Napa and Sonoma and Livermore Valley, et cetera? South Bay, even great wines there too.
Oh yeah, immediately upon arrival, I did, because during my last 4 years at GMA, which would have been 95 to 99, I hosted a wine show called Spencer Christian's Wine Cellar, which aired on HGTV. And a lot of our production was done out here in Northern California. I'd fly out here on a Friday after GMA and spend the weekend producing segments for the show. So by the time I moved here in '99, I was already well acquainted with the wine world here and a lot of the people in it. So yeah, that first year I was here, Mark, every weekend I was on my way up to Napa or Sonoma or some wine region around the Bay Area.
Did you ever get pitched being a vintner yourself or going in on a wine situation, being a wine grower yourself? You must have been pitched on that.
Yeah, I wasn't, but I was smart enough to realize that that's a really tough business. It demands so much of your time. I mean, oh man, I love going.
I'm busy losing money in the casino. I don't need to lose money on the growing grapes.
Right. Well, you know the old expression, right? The quickest way to make a small fortune in the wine business is to start with a large fortune.
So you pushed away from all of that. I know. Yeah, you published a book, and you really have that same thing. Now, do you still drink wine?
Oh yeah, yeah. I have
Okay,
wine with
yeah.
dinner every night. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, tonight I'm going to a special Chateau Margaux wine dinner in Walnut Creek. As soon as I get off the 4 o'clock news, I'm heading out to Walnut Creek.
What?
Wow, that is
Yeah,
exciting.
there'll be some old and more recent as well vintages of Chateau Margaux served at this dinner.
Yes. Albert reminds me that I also I always have wine with dinner, and I'm eating dinner all day and all night. Look, I say, wake up with a Cabernet, go to sleep with a Pinot. It's it's a lovely process. Now you moved into podcasting,
Yeah,
and of course, as you do with everything you do, you won an award. You're right out of the chute. You're brand new, and I mean, literally, I think it's the first year of your podcast, right? And you win this prestigious award.
I'm amazed, Mark. I don't even know what to say. I mean, I enjoy doing the podcast. I have a wide range of interests, as you know, and I like to, dig into a lot of different topics. I love what I'm doing, but I don't feel that the podcast is yet where we want it to be. I don't think of the work I'm doing in this podcast right now as award winning, but we had this one episode that was really good, and we submitted it, and it won the Edward R. Murrow Award in the podcast category.
Wow.
So I'm honored, flattered, humbled, all that stuff, and excited.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's remarkable. Edward R. Murrow Award is. Did you even know that we could submit for that, Albert? Who knew that we could? Who submitted you?
The guy at our station who edits the podcast, who is part of the team. His name is Leonard Torres, and he said, we need to enter this thing for the Murrows. And I went, okay. And so he said, I think the best episode is this particular one. And I remembered the episode, and I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I said, oh, okay, having no idea that we might win, and we did.
What was the episode was concerned with what primarily?
Here's the episode. There's a high school senior in Marin County who, when he was 12, for his bar mitzvah project, chose to teach chess to underserved immigrant kids. Now, this guy was a chess master at 12, and he was bilingual, so he spoke Spanish. And so this was his bar mitzvah project, right? But the interest in the project and the participation grew to a level where it became a big deal. Now it's a nonprofit 501c3, whatever they call it. It's called Chess Pals. And I read about Henry Lean is his name, Henry L-I-E-N, Lean. I read about him in the Marin IJ, and I realized I know this kid's parents. So I invited him to come on the podcast. His mom brought him into the studio at KGO. And we talked about how this idea was born, and what an amazing young man he is, so accomplished and so concerned about the underserved community. And he's made such a commitment to this Chess Pals program. And so we did the podcast, and it won.
Wow, that's just terrific. You're right. That's a great story. How old is he? How old is he? The
He's
kid
17, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That really is amazing.
But he started this when he was 12.
Yeah, it's insane. You realize this, this generation coming up, there's some great minds who really want to make a difference, Yeah. You play chess or not?
I don't, and I really regret it, because I think of myself as a pretty smart guy. I like to think I'm sort of an intellectual.
Well, you like games too, I would think.
I
you
do
like to
like
compute
games,
stuff.
But I grew up in this dirt poor little rural town where most people couldn't even spell chess. So it wasn't until I got to college that I actually saw people playing chess. And by that time, my energy was going into other things. So I never learned to play chess.
I loved going in New York, particularly. You probably saw this, having been there for so many years. Those guys playing chess. I mean,
yes.
They look like street people, huddled there with their hoodies, and they're playing chess and hitting that timer as they make moves. It's a subculture that's really cool.
It really is. Well, my 7-year-old, soon to be 8-year-old grandson Noah plays chess. And when I was last in Massachusetts to visit him, which was just a couple of months ago, he said, "Pop, you need to learn to play chess. So when you come back to visit, we can play." So he turned me onto this app called Chess and Mate, where it teaches you to play, and then you play against the app. And so when I'm going back out there in 2 weeks to visit, and I'll be able to play. I hope.
Oh, that's awesome.
Noah,
That's terrific. No, that's really great. Yeah, of course, there's an app. I was thinking there's like a book, Chess for Dummies or something, but now there's of course an app that'll literally kind of walk you through. That's cool, and that's a bonding experience he'll always remember. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Well, I was saying yesterday, as we finish up with Spencer Christian, that Spencer Christian is the older, successful brother that I never had. He's the guy who, rocked GMA. He's award-winning. He starts a pod. I've had a podcast, and I never, we never submitted even an award. I don't think we would ever, have been even in the hunt for one. You, right out of the chute, boom, Edward Armour Award. So it's like, I salute you in every way, and yeah.
I'm honored to be considered your brother, and I hope you'll be honored to be considered the white sheep of our family.
Oh, I get it. Boy, it's funny. I was thinking just to go politics on you, and you don't have to. I know it's tough as a media personality, but Tim Scott is the Republican who, and the reason I thought of you is I think of the people I know. You're among them, who grew up either in the Jim Crow South or with connected to that world of Jim Crow racism in the South. So Tim Scott is one of those people. That's why I mentioned it. So Tim Scott, for those who don't know, is the latest to throw his hat into the ring as a presidential candidate. Black dude, really affable guy. Like, you can see why he's a successful politician, but he is toxic in terms of his politics. I mean, really? It's just all. But his background, I mean, he's the grandson of Jim Crow, victims of Jim Crow and Jim Crow racism in the South. And so that gives him a cred, when he talks about various cultural issues that have dogged this country. And so as he has now, because it's just happened that he's announced for president, I thought of you because of your experience, which you described so beautifully in your book, and growing up under sort of Jim Crow laws in Virginia, I think is where you were.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, but
he's the junior senator from South Carolina. Yeah,
exactly. And he's got I think he's got an A+ rating from the NRA. He has an A+ rating from the anti-abortionists. The organization escapes me. Yeah. But so, he's got A+ ratings from all the evil that I think afflicts this country. Yep. And yet his story is so compelling. And he'll tell it. I mean, he'll tell it over and over again because it is compelling.
It is compelling. But he, it's sad to me that he wants to whitewash history the way Ron DeSantis does. I mean, he seems like a good guy, as you said, and his story is very compelling. And yet he's always attacking the radical left Democrats. He uses that same rhetoric that the MAGA people use. And he says America is not a racist country. Well, racism obviously isn't the only thing that defines America. When you start to define what we are as a country, we are not a racist country and nothing else. But that is a part of what we are. It's still a part. It always has been.
Germany doesn't run from Holocaust history.
Right.
They teach it. There are laws on the books to make certain that it's very much a part of their history in contemporary society. In other words, they recognize hate speech and they recognize these things that could be the seeds of another wave of anti-Semitism growing up in Germany as fascism. Yeah. We go the other way. We embrace as a society the myth of American exceptionalism, and part of that myth that we work to do, it seems that we work to so hard to get rid of, is this awful history we have of brutality and racism.
Yeah.
And as you say, I mean, it takes on different, this gets into a longer conversation, but the threads of it continue even as we evolve to a better place in general. But I worry, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back a bit.
No, I completely agree, Mark. You're right. and we just have to be continually vigilant and recognize the truth. There's nothing. Well, Germany's a classic example. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging the evil deeds of the past, but continually striving to be a better society, a better country. I thought, for most of my life, I feel that we've been headed in that direction of becoming a better society. But right now, I question where we're headed. Because people proudly wear their bigotry on their sleeves now, whether they're anti-Semitic or racist or anti-LGBTQ or misogynistic. It's just all out there in the open. I'm proudly a bigot, and that's very
disturbing. There's a smack talking now about it that is somehow embraced in the culture in a weird way and celebrated in the culture. And the other thing I would say is that you have to deal with that, Kim.
Yeah.
Her son is just
he's sick at home.
Poor guy's not feeling well. Yeah. But that there was a shame associated with that in the past. At least people knew that it wasn't cool to say those things that you thought in your dark thoughts. It wasn't cool to share the anti-Semitism. It's not cool to say something racist or homophobic or whatever. Now it's sort of as you say, there's a pride associated with as I say, it's like a smack talking, peacocking of it. It's disgusting. Yeah. And it's enabling the worst instincts of people in this country. Did you have something, Kim, before I excuse the witness?
Well, I popped in because you guys were talking about this and you'd mentioned Germany, and I just happened to be reading this story. I thought it would be interesting to get your take on it. It is a story out of Fullerton, California, where a school is removing all Nazi symbolism from its performance of The Sound of Music. The Academy Award-winning musical, of course, based on the Van Trapp family, who lived in Austria during the rise of Nazi Germany. The principal of Rolling Hills Elementary in Fullerton, which is just north of Anaheim, decided to remove all the scenes that included the Nazi storyline, including the props with swastikas and students saying Heil Hitler. Some parents say the play is historically accurate and it should not be altered. Others say the content is too serious for 11 to 12-year-old children. So I wonder, is it important to teach them about that history during this play, or should we wipe all that away?
I'm not in favor of wiping it away. I understand the concern about the sensitivity of young children to harsh realities like that. But, those of us who grew up under Jim Crow were dealing with those harsh realities when we were 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. And yet somehow most of us managed to grow up fairly well balanced. So I think if the content of the play is taught properly and put in proper historical perspective by teachers who explain to the kids that, this is what was going on in the world at that time, but we vanquished that evil, I think the kids will be okay. What's your take on it, Mark?
No, I think that's so well said. I'd also say that there's so much in the way of technology that has matured these kids and informed these kids well past their years often. So what we think of as 11 and 12 is not the 11 and 12 of today. I also think 11 and 12, once you get to be about 12, come on, you're growing up now, right? Okay, and it's time to. These are important things, and you certainly can't dry clean The Sound of Music of Nazism. It's a key part of the entire. What are they fleeing?
Right.
What are they fleeing? It's the big, spoiler alert, they run away.
Yeah.
Okay. What are they running from?
Right.
So it's absurd on its face, but it's also so important. This is how lessons are taught.
Yeah.
It's really sad to think that they may go away or somehow they'll excise some of the most important stuff from this. Hey, congratulations, pal, on all your success. You're a big supporter of the show too. I thank you from my heart for the way you've embraced the show and you've continued to be part of our family. It's really great.
I love you guys. I love the show and love you too. So
I look forward to the next time and more awards for Spencer. By the way, the podcast is called Beyond the Weather. If you're wanting to find
the weather after
the weather, excuse me.
Same thing.
should have been called Beyond the Weather. They rejected my suggestions, and now, of course, they're award-winning with the other. So,
there you go.
After the weather. Thanks, Spencer. See ya. Cut Christian, everybody. Woo. Love it, love it, love it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
He's a great guy. It's a parade of cool people. We'll change gears again. I want to get into the politics. I'm not so optimistic when it comes to the political atmosphere in this country. And so when we talk about raising the debt ceiling, you talk about these institutions, which I'd suggest you don't necessarily need to abide by. But I get into arguments with those who tend to lean toward being institutionalists, that these systems are in place and they'll work themselves out. I'd suggest that the GOP is comprised now of some very high-profile, vocal, and influential, that's the key, politically influential political terrorists and governmental terrorists who really will drive the ship of state aground, and will do it by not crafting a debt deal that normally you'd think you can reach some compromise on, or there's a way. I'm not so sure. I want to talk to John Rothmann about this because John really, first of all, he's worked in Washington. He's worked with a lot of these people through the years, and he's just so well informed on the history of this. And maybe this is a new kind of history being made now. So Rothmann is ahead. And we'll do that after Kim's news. I would ask you to smash the like button.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Smash it like a boss. Come on now.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Albert, what else do I have to do? Anything?
For now, no. Let's just get to the news, get to Rothmann, and then we'll figure it out after that.
Yeah. Okay.
Albert, thank you.
Great to have Albert back, everyone. All right, smash the like button. Kim's news next, and then, as I say, Rothmann.
I've told you, it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards. Let's start with Brooke Jenkins. This is a kind of a new development in the case of the shooting outside Walgreens, or at the door frame of Walgreens in San Francisco. California's Attorney General now agreeing to determine whether San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins' decision in deciding not to file charges in that deadly shooting of 24-year-old Banco Brown was the right one. Brown's mother, Kevanisha Henderson, says the Walgreens security guard involved needs to be held accountable by the San Francisco.
I just want her to look me in my face and tell me that she really believes that it was self-defense and not murder. I just want her.
Yeah, that was the mother of Banco Brown. The announcement came with a growing outrage after the release of the security video and the DA's conclusion the security guard, Michael Anthony, was acting in self-defense. Dozens rallied Tuesday in support for the 24-year-old transgender activist Brown as supervisors voted on a resolution urging the Attorney General and the U.S. Department of Justice to take a second look at this case. Jenkins says she welcomes the Attorney General's review and said in a statement, "We provided the highest degree of transparency possible that we could have with this case." The family's civil attorney says trying to prove the DA abused her discretion is a pretty high bar. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is reportedly now just hours away from announcing officially his presidential run. Yeah, a long expected announcement. Reports say the Republican governor plans to launch his bid for the 2024 nomination during a live appearance tonight with Elon Musk on Twitter Spaces. DeSantis will face a number of GOP primary opponents, including former President Donald Trump. It has been 1 year since the deadly shooting in Uvalde, Texas. Not much has changed there. That's according to Kim Rubio, who lost her 10-year-old daughter, Lexi, when a gunman opened fire at Robb Elementary School last year. Rubio said there's been no accountability and no word whether some people involved will face charges or not.
She's right. I mean, it's remarkable to me that a year's gone by and that maybe it shouldn't be remarkable. I mean, so many of these departments have no kind of accounting for the total incompetence and cowardice associated with what happened in Uvalde. But this is outrageous that a year later, there's been no real price to pay. I understand that the chief lost his job, et cetera, but it was such a total and complete failure that you would have thought, and I mean, it was a massacre, and that it was permitted with law enforcement standing right outside. Again, the whole thing is grotesque, awful.
Yeah, it's sad. 1 year ago today that happened. It seems like it's passed, very quickly, but it also seems like as more and more things came out, you would have had more changes made. And parents there are still looking at this whole case saying, what are you going to do? And now we still have to send our kids to school. No. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says the United States will not default on its debt. That is what he told reporters when saying Congress needs to pass a bill to raise the debt limit before June. The Republican did, however, say his team and the White House are still far apart on a number of issues as they try to strike a deal. But saying the U.S. will not default on its debt seems to lead to the conclusion that they will make a deal. So we'll see how it goes. Northern California cities lost a great deal more residents during the pandemic than cities to the south. Yeah. New census data shows Bay Area communities were hit the hardest. San Jose lost nearly 40,000 residents, fell off the list of the nation's 10 most populous cities. San Francisco lost more than 7% of its population. The economy, biggest factor, but in cities like Susanville, where the population shrunk by more than 16%, devastating wildfires are considered likely to blame.
Of course, makes sense.
3 out of 5 of the fastest growing cities in the state are in Southern California. They are Menifee, Murrieta, and the Jurupa Valley.
Yeah.
So you've got shrinking in the north, but you've got some growing in the Southland.
So people aren't fleeing California per se. Well, at least that's the flow within California. That's the,
I mean, some of those people apparently, could have left the state altogether. But when you just talk about where the population is congregating.
Yeah, the population flow within California is toward the south. Yeah,
that's right. Another poll showing the number of Americans who say they own stocks is at a 15-year high. That according to a new Gallup survey that found 61% of U.S. adults have money invested in the stock market, the highest level since 2008, just after the start of the Great Recession. Gallup noted that richer Americans are more likely to own stocks. That seems reasonable. Do want to tell you that there's another story. This one I kind of have to take a deep breath before I report it because it's a little upsetting to me, and it may involve me having to stop and take deep breaths along the way. But I'm gonna do my very best to get through it. Okay, I'm gonna soldier on. I'm gonna make it happen.
All right.
Tucker Carlson is the most trusted media figure for news and information.
What?
That according to a new Gallup poll. He is on top of a list of news media journalists who and respondents who say they most trust them to update them on the current events. So Tucker Carlson comes in at number 1. I'll take a deep breath for me.
Well, as I told you, the most trusted, most influential news show is what? The View. All right. That's the country that we're in. So the Carlson thing doesn't surprise me on some level.
Well,
but
at least at The View, you get differing opinions. You get, it's maybe hot topics of the day or whatever, but you get different viewpoints from the different people sitting at the table.
Yeah.
My words upset so many people.
Right, it's true. You got the whoopster in there. She's keeping things honest with Joy and the rest of them. So, yeah.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Anyway, yeah, but Tucker Carlson, look, he was talked about as a potential presidential candidate. He said he's not going to run for president, but that's all you need is name recognition and enough trust, enough confidence on the part of the electorate. So anyway, yeah, you're right. That's not exactly an uplifting tale.
No, it isn't. Number 2 on the list, though.
Oh, yeah. Number 2.
MSNBC host Rachel Maddow
Well,
She
there you go.
follows him closely by Fox News anchor Sean Hannity, tied with Daily Show host and comedian Trevor Noah. Lester Holt follows as the first straight news journalist on the list.
Yeah. You mean like just
By straight, I mean like
yes,
news.
thank you. Right.
Yeah.
Man. Where's Steve Harvey in that? Is he anywhere?
They don't give you.
He's on Steve Harvey.
Well, welcome to Family Feud, everybody. I'm your man, Steve Harvey.
Come on, I'm the most influential. All right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, okay. This also is upsetting, but whatever. Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is now the owner of a lip balm stick previously used by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Greene placed a winning $100,000 bid for the lip balm Tuesday during a GOP fundraising auction held at the Capitol Hill Club in Washington. She placed the bid only after McCarthy upped the value of the item by offering a visit with the winner's donors and supporters. The $100,000 is being donated to the National Republican Congressional Committee.
She has $100,000. Rothman maybe can tell me where that money comes from.
She's pretty wealthy.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Where does she get her money?
Her family gave her a business, or she inherited some type of business, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have that. This report is sponsored by the very fine people at Tenuta Vineyards. And here's Rich Tenuta.
Tenuta FFLs. I'm at the top of the property here at Tenuta Vineyards. I'm above the Pinot Noir. And just want to welcome everybody to join us this weekend, Memorial Day weekend here at Tenuta. We're actually open all week. We were busy yesterday, so if you want to get a jump start to your Memorial Day weekend, I'm a little winded, so it's tough. It's a tough climb up here. But anyways, we're open all week and all weekend. Got some special surprises. It's our 9-year anniversary of our tap room. I'm just taking a beautiful scenic shot of the property here, Little Tuscany in the Livermore Valley. Call me. 925-699-4576. I'll set you up with a nice table outside, and thank you all for your support, and we'll see you this weekend. Take care, guys.
Love it. Love it, Rich from Tenuta. That was a nice little hit.
Thanks for sponsoring the news, Tenuta Vineyards, and it's beautiful out there. So pretty. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
My wife wants some vegetables for crudité.
I was a basketball referee.
Feels great, baby.
Who's Mark Thompson?
It's unbelievably offensive.
What he's got going here is a situation.
I was fortunate. Everyone I worked with made me better at my job.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
It is great to have everyone with us. This is our Wednesday show, and this guy's been so patient because he's regularly a Wednesday visitor. He is another one who is a refugee from KGO Radio. He is the sexy beast, the historian, the rabbi. How about it? John Rothmann, everyone. Yeah. Hey, John Rothmann, do you know, or should I have Albert tell us? So Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's got a couple of dollars, huh? She's
it's from her family. She inherited a business. I think she and her brother run it together. And so she is very well fixed, and evidently needed some lip balm. And so she spent it's
lip balm. Used.
Well, it's Kevin McCarthy, so it's got special lip balm. Yeah. So what's going to happen on this debt ceiling thing? Is the deal going to be made, or how do you handicap the whole thing, even just in terms of if the deal is made, the concessions that'll have to be made?
No one can afford not to make the deal, but I want to make the observation that the Republicans are in favor of cutting, but not on defense spending. And if I were countering, I would say, fine, let's have a spending cut and make it across the board that includes everything. But of course, that is not the way the Republicans think. And in the end, the debt ceiling will be raised because we cannot afford not to do it. And the implications for those people who aren't following it, not just the American economy, but the world economy. So I have every expectation the debt ceiling will be raised. But there's a little wiggle to this. Will it happen by June 1st? Well, if they wait a few days more, it won't hurt anything. But yes, there will be a debt ceiling raised. Can you imagine if Social Security checks and military pay didn't go out, what the reaction would be? I don't even want to think about it.
So the narrative, the political narrative, I would suggest it's been seized a bit by the GOP. You might disagree with me on that, but I would suggest because Biden has indicated he might negotiate on certain things, and Biden is an institutionalist. He's I can broker a deal kind of guy. He's a reach across the aisle kind of guy. Has that hurt politically in any way? Who is, on just the political X's and O's, hurt by this delay in raising the ceiling and the debt limit?
If the debt ceiling is raised, there will be a zero-sum gain, because the American people won't remember.
Okay.
That's your answer.
Okay. Isn't that interesting that it seized the narrative and seized the headlines right now, but you're saying there's just going to be so much other water over the bridge or under the bridge and over the dam that it won't matter. Okay.
Every day there's more news breaking, and one of the great advantages of listening to the Mark Thompson show is to be able to explore all of those issues.
Oh, well, that's very nice. We should I think you should ding him, not applause, but ding for the look, the field is getting crowded on the GOP side for president. Ron DeSantis expected to join the field. I mentioned Tim Scott. Tim Scott's got money. Sadly, American politics is all about money. Yeah. And DeSantis is going to have, I was just reading this morning, he's going to have a lot of money being poured into trying to push him past Donald Trump. Right now, Trump outpaces him in polling, but there's a lot of money flowing into the DeSantis campaign from, again, mainstream GOPers who don't want Trump and feel that Trump's got a stink on him that will cost them the executive branch and perhaps down-ticket races as well. How do you see this all shaping up?
I have a political trivia question for you. What was the most expensive delegate ever elected to a Republican National Convention, and for what candidate?
Oh.
I'll tell you. I'm going to answer my own question. It was John Connally, who got one delegate out of South Carolina that cost $11 million. My answer is it's not money necessarily that will determine the outcome of the race. Donald Trump is clearly the favorite, but let me remind you, he faces indictments on several different levels. And there are a lot of people who are unhappy with him, including leaders of the Republican Party. Will it make a difference? I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you right now, it is as much the personality and the presentation, but there is one universal point. All of the Republican candidates agree on key things. They agree that a woman's right to choose should be restricted. Can you believe what happened in South Carolina?
I was just about to bring up South Carolina. Thank you. Go ahead.
They agree that there were election irregularities, which there were not. They agree with this so-called censorship that Ron DeSantis and others are promoting. And you mentioned the situation in Southern California with the play, which would omit the Nazis from The Sound of Music. It's crazy. But that also is a universal construct. So my sense is that the great problem the Republican Party has is they agree on a platform which is out of the mainstream of the American public. Donald Trump is another handicap. If Trump is the nominee, he carries with him all of that baggage. But it seems to me the Republicans are also saddled with policies. Remember, the last Republican National Convention did not adopt a platform. It simply said, whatever Donald Trump wants, we're for. And I don't think that's a winning combination. But we'll have to see how it sorts itself out.
That's interesting. Hang on a second. You don't think it's a winning combination for them because what?
The American people don't agree with them. The majority of the American people favor a woman's right to choose. The majority of the American people believe the election.
Well, those are policies, though. Those are policies,
yes,
though, John. And when you talk, I think he's a cult of personality, and the American people did. Now, again, we're talking about look, he just barely lost that election because of this ridiculous way that we do elections in this country.
No,
I'm
no,
talking
he
about the
didn't just
Electoral
barely
College.
lose.
Yes, he did, John.
No, he got
go
the
ahead.
same electoral vote that he'd gotten 4 years before in reverse with Hillary Clinton, and he called that a landslide.
Well,
and
Hillary Clinton barely lost. It was. I'm talking about the Electoral College, the way it goes down, John.
He can't carry, in my judgment, key states, Georgia, Wisconsin. He's already demonstrated he can't carry those. Pennsylvania, which he thought he had a shot at, and he didn't. I have to tell you, I honestly believe it is a race the Democrats will have to lose in some way because the Republicans can't win with Trump. And I have to tell you, people care about issues. I believe that. And it is clear that the majority of the American people do not agree with Donald Trump. Let me just point one other thing out to you, and that is that the big blow to Ron DeSantis was his statement about Ukraine not being in the national interest. And now he's having to reframe what he's doing. I have to tell you, the Republicans in my book, thank heaven, because of my policy views, are behind the eight ball. And I hope it remains that way.
Well, I clearly agree with you, and I think you're right. They diverge from what the American public wants. But there is, and you know this better than anyone because you're such a student of presidential history and governmental history, there is this cult of personality that ultimately can decide which way a person votes. And so you end up with, strong men winning, with people who, like George Bush, seem like the kind of person you want to have at your barbecue winning the presidency, even though they are manifestly moronic in their take on things, and they have no sort of administrative track record. I mean,
but Donald Trump has a track record,
well,
and a
now he
majority of
does,
the American
yes.
people reject that track record. And the Republican Party is smart enough to see. Just take a look at the 2022 election, where Trump intervened and endorsed overwhelmingly the candidates lost. If the Republicans want to maintain their majorities in the House, gain a majority in the Senate, and capture the presidency, Donald Trump, at least based on the polling and the statistics, simply doesn't carry it. And let me tell you, there's one thing about a cult. It's narrow, Mark. It's not broad. And if you're going to win the presidency of the United States on a state-by-state race, which is how we run our campaigns, Donald Trump has a serious handicap. Question is what the Democrats will do, and that's a big question. Although Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will in all likelihood be renominated, we don't know that until the convention takes place. That is to say, we don't know what the health of Joe Biden will be. We don't know what the circumstances might be in terms of a whole series of issues. But right now, if the election were held, I believe the Democrats would win. And I think the demonstration of that is the 2022 midterms.
Yes. Well, if the election were held now, you would freeze things now and you'd put Biden in top of ticket and Trump in top of ticket. And you're right. Biden would likely prevail, despite the fact that many polls show that Biden's not popular and that Trump's not popular in the race for unpopularness. Depending on your poll, Trump wins or Biden wins. But I would agree with you for the reasons that we stipulated. That is the way the elections are laid out in this country.
Can I throw one more thing out to you? It did not get a lot of press, but there is something called the unity move. That is to say, there are people who want a third party, and they're talking about Joe Manchin for president, and we don't know who for vice president. I don't think a third party can win an election, but a third party, as was the case in 2000 with Nader, can be a spoiler. And remember that if Nader had not been in the contest in Florida, there's no doubt in my mind that Gore would have carried Florida overwhelmingly and would have been president. I am not in favor of a third party. And let me be clear, I voted for a third party candidate, John Anderson.
I thought John Anderson would be your guy, yeah.
But I have to tell you, I knew at the time that it would not make a difference. But if you have a 50-state campaign with a Joe Manchin or some other national unity candidate, a Democrat and a Republican on the same ticket, garnering enough votes, well, I have to tell you, I think that would work in the Republican advantage, not the Democrats. So that's something I very much oppose. I would like to see a straight two-party battle for the presidency in 2024.
Well, you can tell everyone in a country such as America, we aren't set up for a third-party challenge in the sense that not only will you likely not get enough of the electorate to win the election, but you, in some cases, can't even get on the ballot in some states. Isn't that right, John?
Yes, but I want to remind you, we had a third-party candidate for president who won, and that was Abraham Lincoln in 1860. The Democratic Party was divided into four parts into that campaign. There were three other contenders: John C. Breckinridge, Bell, who was the Speaker of the House, and Stephen A. Douglas. And so Lincoln got in, but on a squeaker because of the Electoral College and because he won a majority of the popular votes. You're not going to see that happen again. It did not happen with George Wallace in 1968. It certainly did not happen with Ross Perot in 2 elections. But what worries me is if you damage the two-party approach, it leaves an opening for somebody to win who you really don't want to win. And that is what happened in 2000 with George Bush.
In other words, and this is a really important point I think that you're making, Brother Rothman, and that is that it's not that the third party only serves to take away enough votes from the guy, generically, man or woman, that you want to win, such that the person that you don't want to win, is your point, actually passes the finish line, and that's what happened with George Bush.
That's
now,
right.
I want to ask you, you touched on, so I've got just 2 more things, and I'm so grateful for your time. South Carolina, you mentioned it. You really see the brutality of the GOP in this new South Carolina bill, which is a fetal heartbeat type bill, which is generally around 6 weeks. So any abortion after 6 weeks is illegal in the state of South Carolina with this new bill. Can you speak to that and sort of this state-by-state course that a lot of these GOP legislators are following?
It's appalling. And let me be clear. If, in fact, in 1954, Brown versus the Board of Education, we had state-by-state decision on whether to integrate, the South would have remained segregated. The only reason that Brown versus the Board of Education had impact is it had a national impact. Same thing applied with Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court decision essentially goes back to a proposition stated by Stephen A. Douglas in 1858 when he ran against Abraham Lincoln for the Senate, and that is popular sovereignty, that each state should resolve for itself its own position. That is not the way you have a united union. Remember what Abraham Lincoln said: a house divided against itself cannot stand. We are a nation divided against ourselves on the question of choice. Please note, I did not say abortion. I said choice, a woman's right to control her own body. And I made this point the other day very clearly. If anybody told me what I could or could not do with my body, I would tell them to take a flying leap. And I think that's what the women of America are doing. And the Republicans understand that to a degree, but not enough. And so what happened in South Carolina, in my judgment, is an abomination and, frankly, reveals the weakness which the Supreme Court has underlined in the question of popular sovereignty. And I rejected that notion today, and I would have rejected it in 1858. And certainly if Abraham Lincoln were alive today, he would not be a Republican because he would not accept the idea of state-by-state decisions. Can you imagine? Oh, and let me just make a comment about what Spencer Christian said, which to me is very important. And by the way, an excellent interview. I don't know how many people have been to Birmingham, Alabama. I've been to Birmingham, and I went to the Civil Rights Museum in Birmingham. And in Birmingham, you learn about what Jim Crow meant by walking through that museum. The idea that in California, in Southern California, from the sound of music, all references to the Nazis or Nazi symbolism would be omitted is criminal. It is the same kind of situation that Ron DeSantis is imposing in Florida, and which the Republicans, I dare say, would like to impose in too many states. May I say a quick word about the transgender business, which on Fox is one of the biggest stories that ever hit. All I can tell you is every American should have the right to live their life as they see fit, as long as it doesn't impose on anybody else. And again, the Republicans have set up a straw man, this transgender nonsense, which frankly is offensive in every single way. I don't care if you're gay or straight or transgender, you have a right to live your life. So if I may just conclude this diatribe by saying, I would commend everyone. Not only should you visit the Civil Rights Museum in Birmingham, you should also visit the Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington and the Museum in Washington for Black History, which I assume, Mark, when you were visiting your parents, you may have had time to stop in and see.
I've seen it. Yeah, it's powerful.
If we forget our history, if we allow people to censor our history, we make a huge mistake. And let me be crystal clear. I would never vote for Ron DeSantis because I disagree with him on too many issues. But anyone who favors the kind of censorship and, yes, book removal from library shelves that Ron DeSantis favors has no business in the White House.
This is interesting to kind of pull you into a controversy. Let me handle one controversy first, and then I'll get to this if there's time.
Sure.
On the transgender question, you saw that story about, where was it? Albert, will you check the, maybe you know, John, there's a graduation where they won't allow a transgender student who has been living all these high school years for the 4 years of high school.
I read the story.
Yeah. What were you?
Google it.
I mean, yes. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what school or what state. But to me, it is reflective of some of what you're talking about, which is there's a real person here. This isn't some philosophical, theoretical thing. This is someone who's going through this difficult period of adolescence and through high school, graduating, and now it's this I don't know what you'd call it. It's there it is. Okay. Gulfport, trans girl misses graduation, wouldn't allow her to go to graduation unless she dressed as a boy.
Just terrible. And the same thing applies in Oklahoma. Maybe you can pull up that story too, where a Native American has been told they cannot wear a sacred feather as part of their graduation attire. This is absurd, and it carries political correctness, which is completely incorrect.
Well, also, I think it's just played for political currency. Sort of. That's why what you were suggesting. That's why I thought of it. And now I want to ask you about Oprah. Apparently, Governor Newsom is assessing who to appoint should Diane Feinstein step down. And one of the names that Newsom is considering is media mogul Oprah Winfrey. And
who is having that conversation?
Well, they are having it at the State House. Appointing a celebrity, it's thought, John, could help Newsom avoid picking favorites among actual politicians. Oprah has tremendous likability. She is insanely smart. She likely reflects politically many of the same leanings that Newsom has and that Californians have. And so I ask you, might it happen should the 89-year-old Feinstein push away?
Of course it could. And it would make perfect sense for Gavin Newsom. He promised to appoint an African-American woman. We know that Oprah Winfrey would only serve the balance of Diane's term. We know politically she's consistent with Gavin Newsom's point of view and Diane's point of view. So it would make perfect sense. It avoids the political turmoil of making a selection of someone who would necessarily then want to stand for election in her own right, like Barbara Lee. And I use that because she is a candidate. But Gavin Newsom has boxed himself in. Would Oprah take the job? That's a very good question. But is it a viable possibility? I always remember, do you remember Murder, She Wrote with Angela Lansbury? Okay. If you remember, it was an absurd plot, but there was a vacancy in the House of Representatives in Maine, where she theoretically lives, and she is appointed to that seat. So they had a whole series of things as Angela Lansbury as a congresswoman. Now, the fault with the plot is governors don't appoint members of the House, only members of the Senate. So the whole premise was wrong, but it was the same logic. So I would not rule it out. And I think if she were willing and Gavin Newsom wanted to take himself off the political hot plate, that'd be a heck of a way to do it. By the way, I've had several people suggest that he appoint me. I'm afraid I don't qualify because I'm not African American and I'm not a woman. But
do you think it's a smart thing that we do? Politicians do this. Biden did it when he talked about his running mate. I'm going to find an African American woman to be the next fill in the blank. Do you think that's a good thing?
I have to tell you, I've always understood ticket balancing. But I think when you choose a vice president or you choose a member of the Senate, you want to make sure the person you are selecting is someone who can do the job. Now, Gavin Newsom did not suggest Oprah Winfrey, at least publicly. There may be private trial balloons. That doesn't surprise me at all. But the important thing for California is that we have a senator who reflects our point of view. And if you want to have a non-political nominee, the governor appoints that person. They serve the balance of the term. Well, that's the governor's option.
But this thing that my point is this. I hate it. I hate the suggestion that that I'm going to pick a person, and you mentioned their race specifically, and you mentioned their gender specifically. I just see this as you can tell me, though, the political calculus must be clear. It seems to me like a political loser. Like, why do you do that kind of thing? That seems like a virtue signaling that is just so transparent. But maybe politically the calculus is positive.
It's the same reason that Walter Mondale took Geraldine Ferraro. He needed a woman on the ticket.
No, he took her, but he didn't announce it ahead of time.
He indicated he wanted a woman. He did indicate it. I was in a meeting with him where he indicated that. And Diane Feinstein, by the way, was at the top of the list. We thought she was going to be the nominee. She was only disqualified because of her husband, Dick Blum, and his extensive financial dealings. What Mondale did not take into account was Geraldine Ferraro's husband, who also had deep financial implications, if you all remember history. But I think when we talk about ticket balancing, it used to be if you lived at one end of the nation, you took somebody from the other end of the nation. Dewey in 1948 with Earl Warren. But the exception to that was, of course, when Bill Clinton took Al Gore. They were from neighboring states, Arkansas and Tennessee. But Ronald Reagan, in the end, settled on George Bush. Ronald Reagan from California, George Bush from both Connecticut and Texas. Although
that's a ticket balancing of a different sort. I'm talking about virtue signaling, and I'm sick of it. And the one thing the Democrats should do is get off it. I'm looking for an African-American woman. Hey, dude, why don't you just not announce it and just, as you suggest, balance the ticket or make the choice that you want to make?
Let me explain. Joe Biden was in a serious question of winning the nomination. He needed to win the South Carolina primary.
So that was the political calculus. Okay.
Absolutely, and he won the nomination. And
great, that's different. That explains it. At least you put it in a context. Thank you. Good. And let's not forget the Kamala Harris finger puppet, which still has residence here. John, you gave me my first radio interview in San Francisco.
It's true.
It's so good to see you again.
Thank you.
John, you are a resource that we will continue to exploit. Love your visits on Wednesdays.
May I say I'm delighted to be exploited, and I want to thank you, Mark and Kim, for your indulgence. And, of course, our wonderful producer, who I've missed the last few weeks, and may I say I'm delighted that he's back.
Yes, Albert is back from Asia.
Albert, thank you.
Yeah, and Kim is always lovely. So thank you, John. We'll see you next week. John Rothmann, everybody. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Kim's News, and then I have a word of where the big money is going. Some of those who are the Jillionaires who occupy San Francisco are leaving the city. Where they're going is interesting. I almost feel like we should guess, but I'll just tell you. Yeah. And then I will update the news on that guy who drove into the White House. You saw that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All kinds of racist stuff with that guy.
Yeah. 19 years old. He cranked up the hate to 10. And he crashed his vehicle. Said he was prepared to kill Biden and seize power. He didn't really think it through.
No.
But I also think that it's kind of a sign of the times. I don't mean to make it too heavy, but it's or you can view it as a one-off. He's a 19-year-old. He's a crazy, racist, Nazi. Anyway, we'll give you a few details in addition on that. I'm trying to cobble together something else. I'll let you know. After 11:30, I thought maybe a quick conversation with someone else who's following the Jeopardy Masters tournament. I don't know if anybody has interest in this. I feel like on this show there isn't necessarily. I think I have interest. I don't think anybody else does.
You just don't get it.
I don't get it. I don't get it. So I was talking to Bill Mann, who lives up in the Pacific Northwest and is a regular listener and viewer of the show. And he says, how come you're not doing anything on the Masters tournament? So I may bring Bill on just to kind of give us a summary of things. Tonight is the big finale. So we also haven't talked about NBA. So, there's some, we don't get to everything that we want to get to. All right, Kim's news next. Smash the like button while I'm thinking about it, if you would. Smash it like a boss. And
smash it with your iron rod.
Yeah, smash it with your iron rod and give us a thumbs up. Costs you nothing. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. We will start with President Biden, who plans to give a speech on gun violence today to mark the 1 year mark since the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. 19 children and 2 teachers were killed last year when a gunman entered Robb Elementary School and opened fire in a 4th grade classroom. The White House says Biden will deliver remarks about the shooting this afternoon and will reiterate his call for Republicans in Congress to act and help stop the epidemic of gun violence. The former South Carolina attorney, Alex Murdaugh, is being indicted on federal charges. More trouble for this guy. Murdaugh is charged with bank fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, among other things. He is currently in prison after being convicted for the murders of his wife and his youngest son. CNN will be hosting a town hall with Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley next month. That comes weeks after a town hall CNN hosted with former President Trump. Some criticize the news organization for allowing Trump to spread misinformation and attack E. Jean Carroll, who he lost a civil case to over sexually abusing and defaming her. The U.S. Surgeon General sounding the alarm on negative effects of social media on teen mental health. That is the word from Dr. Amanda Falk, Chief Clinical Officer at mental health facility The Dorm. She agrees. She says the social media use is a top contributing factor to depression, anxiety, and other problems among youth. The advisory encourages policymakers and social media companies to ensure state safety standards and help protect young people from exposure to harmful content and excessive use as well. Prosecutors are calling for a 7-year sentence for this fine fellow. Remember him? Yeah, he is the guy who was seen putting his feet up on then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's desk. His name is Richard Barnett. He became one of the most well-known rioters on January 6th of 2021 when he was photographed putting his boots up on a desk in Pelosi's suite of offices in the Capitol. And again, prosecutors are now calling for him to get a 7-year sentence for his involvement in the Capitol riot.
That seems reasonable.
7 years?
Yeah. You want more?
I do indeed.
Well, yeah. I would say minimum 7.
Yeah, that's reasonable, I think.
What do they do normally? It's like a third of the time, typically, that they parole you after. Yeah. I'm with you. Kind of I'm a tough law and order guy, so I'm with you, Kim. Go ahead.
That's fairly egregious.
You're a tiger mom when it comes to.
I am.
When it comes to law and order, and I'm a tough law and order guy too. So good for you.
Pay the price and pay it stiffly.
Right.
A Florida school is restricting access to Amanda Gorman's inauguration poem after a parent complaint. What could they possibly have had?
One parent complained about.
Yeah,
what?
But it was at the Bob Graham Education Center Library. They removed her poem called The Hill We Climb a poem which touched most of the nation. They removed it from the elementary school section. They didn't take it out entirely. They put it into the middle school section instead. The move was made after a parent complained the poem was not educational and contains indirect hate messages.
Wow.
Yeah. Target is pulling down now some of its merchandise, gay pride merchandise, after violent customers threatened several employees. People get mad over stuff that it just doesn't matter. Tuesday, the company released a statement saying since it has introduced this collection, employees have experienced threats against their safety or well-being. So they are pulling the pride wear for kids.
God almighty. Just unreal.
4-time NBA champion Steph Curry is currently teaming up with a Kentucky-based distillery to launch his own brand of booze. It's called Gentleman's Cut Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. The bourbon is distilled and aged. It is bottled at Game Change Distillery, and it releases this month. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Will it help me make 3-pointers?
Yes.
Well, you won't feel as bad when you don't make them. It'll definitely help you with that.
A shot for a shot. Yeah. That's right.
It's funny. This is the grab that Clooney did, right? Clooney and Randy Gerber did it.
Yeah,
Cindy Crawford's
Casamigos,
husband.
right?
Yeah, Casamigos. You see that all over the place. And then who's the other guy? Who's is it Ryan Reynolds who made a killing also?
I think Ryan Reynolds and the pair that did Breaking Bad, they're also doing a tequila.
Oh
as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Doesn't Sammy Hagar
Aaron
have
Paul
and
yeah, Hagar has the tequila too.
Yeah.
And then you're right, from Breaking Bad. Yeah, the Breaking Bad people.
The guy from Outlander has the Scottish whiskey as well. Yeah.
Bryan Cranston, and who's the other? Jesse.
Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy who played Jesse, right?
The Mark Thompson Show is crowdfunded, and that means we rely on Yuski.
We do.
Brewski for all of the money. So you can find the links at our website, the Patreon links and the PayPal links. It is themarkthompsonshow.com, where you will find the links and you can join our community and contribute, and we thank you. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Feels great, baby.
Let me kick down the door and talk to my cheap sons and daughters. No context will suffice to explain the hurt and anguish caused by my words. I apologize to all who have been hurt.
I stand corrected. I misspoke. My words upset so many people.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
God bless America. The end.
There's never been anything like this. Do I hit it long? Is Trump strong?
Who is having that conversation?
It's fantastic.
That's not fake. That's real.
The science is ridiculous.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir. If you get it in order, you get extra points.
Listen to me. I don't want to hear you.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
This is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
There is no defense for my conduct. It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Don't ever use that word.
You get nothing.
What's a guilty pleasure you have?
Seriously, what the
We are back. Great to have you with us. This is our Wednesday show, and it's so much fun to have visitors like Spencer Christian and John Rothmann in, and it's really a lot of fun to have you here. So thank you. Wherever you're taking in the show, however you're taking it in, thanks for being part of our community. So many of you have come contributed on the chat too. And in fact, in just kicking around various things, I'm seeing in the chat the warning that if we're going to discuss the Jeopardy Masters tournament, that we are to be very careful not to reveal any spoilers. Here it is from Kathy in Alaska. Jeopardy Masters, absolutely following it, but please, no spoilers. Had to record last night's match. But the Masters has been very, very entertaining, and the answers outrageously difficult. That's certainly true without any spoiling. That was just, it's been a parade of some of the toughest questions, to the point that when you get one, you just go, wow, I got that. It really is. And the other thing that happens on Jeopardy Masters, then we're going to talk to Bill Mann, who's the longtime media critic who left the Bay Area, and now he lives up in the Pacific Northwest when he checks in from time to time, and he's watching, is that they're all familiar with each other. You know, they're not the stiff contestants anymore. They're kind of they're all bros. And I mean that generically. You know, they're just these people who are so comfy that they're giving each other a hard time. Even Ken Jennings, who you'll remember is a winner and sort of ascended to replacing Alex Trebek as a result of his success in Jeopardy, right? And they consider him one of them. So they give him a lot of grief along the way, and it's fun. Without any further delay, let me bring in somebody who's watching. And just for a few minutes, we'll discuss this Jeopardy Masters. How about it for Bill Mann? Bill, welcome to our little show, and it is great to have you here. I know you're, in addition to being, a media critic for many, many years, you're a fan of media. Like, you're a fan of television and all that stuff, and radio and all that stuff that you used to write about regularly. Now tell me about your complete fixation with Jeopardy and what's going on with this Masters. Tell everybody what it is, please, if you would.
Well, it's a show that's been around for 40 years.
But the Masters thing has not been around 40 years.
No. The Masters is the Tournament of Champions winners, and maybe even some more thrown in. So I heard you think about spoilers. I can go back 2 nights, can I? Not last night. I'm just asking. I don't want to.
I don't know. You tell me. Is 2 nights? There it is. I love how the contestants joke around with Ken, says Beth. Yeah. What do you think, Kim? Are we okay going back 2 nights? What do you think, Albert?
Not last night.
I think 2 nights. I mean, if you're not caught up with last night, that's understandable. But 2 nights, yeah.
Okay.
No.
Right.
All right. So there you go. So Kim gives you the green
Kim,
light.
how are you?
All right. Go ahead, Bill.
Jennings has been having a ball. It's true. And this guy.
When you watch Jennings do it, excuse me for interrupting, but do you feel as though, wow, he is on another level? I mean, like even another level higher by maybe just a few percentage points than the contestants? Or do you feel like, no, Mark, he just knows the answers ahead of time. That's why he just seems a little smarter.
He's not on a different level from these 6 people. He's on an equal level, which has made these shows so entertaining.
Okay.
They get down to the last question and somebody says, bring it. It's a running gag every night. And this guy Holzhauer, I'm not going to, say how he does, but he is really, really sharp and funny. And so was the old guy, Sam. He's very, very witty.
I was rooting for the old guy. Now, of course, the guy from San Francisco rocks it also.
Andrew He. He's not, I wouldn't say he's particularly funny, but he is.
No, but he's.
And he plays along.
Yeah, I would say that he's super affable. He's not a stiff.
Right. Okay. Probably the funniest moment is when Holzhauer, the Vegas, so-called, the gambler, he showed up, I think on the second show, maybe the third, wearing one of these stupid championship belts like wrestlers tote around.
Yeah, that was funny.
That was a very funny bit.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, and so a couple of people have danced out for a few minutes while we're talking about this. So it's cool to Kay in Santa Rosa says I'm too far behind. I'm going to turn this off for now. Yeah, we'll just be a few minutes on this, but it is worth noting when you have all of these insanely talented people, would you say it comes down to knowledge and also where you end up on the board, daily doubles, or do you think at the end of this how much is daily doubles? How much of it is knowledge? How do you handicap it all, like your chances?
Well, daily doubles have played a big part in the last 2 weeks, and they show the audience at home where they are. I wish they wouldn't do that. There's no point in doing that. But no,
you don't think so? It reminded me of the secret square in the Hollywood Square. They go, one of these celebrities is sitting in the secret square.
Oh God!
Let's show the audience at home.
Charlie Weaver, somebody pinch me.
But you didn't like that. You felt you don't gain anything.
It's pointless. But thank God the questions aren't dumbed down like they are in Celebrity Jeopardy or something. These are very difficult questions.
Right. How do you do with these questions, Bill? You're a very smart guy.
Well, I'm not a very smart guy. I've tried out for Jeopardy, and we gone into that before.
Yeah, that's so well. I mean, you didn't do badly.
I kind of flamed out, but I get a lot fewer. Maybe in the average show, I will get about half of them, maybe 2/3 right. On this show, I'm lucky if I get 1 out of 4 right. They're very tough questions.
Yeah,
and pretty really obscure areas. Yeah.
So, just last thing in our last minute with Bill Mann, the construct is what? It's not the normal thing. It's not, in other words, there are points here and how many games you've won. What is the construct?
Well, you get a point for second place. Amy Schneider got 5 second places in a row. I won't tell you how she did, but, and 3 points for a win. And win in second place is it. And I don't know, who does scoring like that, but, maybe it's a bridge score. I don't know. But the last 2 nights have been really interesting. Matea Roach 2 nights ago, not last night, she got really unfortunate at the end. She was ahead of Holzhauer at the Final Jeopardy, and that's really unusual. And she just bet wrong. And I'm not going to say what happened to her, but she had a chance to beat him, and she didn't get it. So my Canadian pick.
Amazing personalities and styles. And I love this thing that a couple of them have where they seem to be searching and almost guessing at the answer, and then it's just right. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, they don't miss. But their style is as though they're going, they almost put it in a kind of as though they're just reaching, It really is wild to see these abilities functioning on a level that one could never conceive of. I mean, it's insane. Really, really great.
They're very bright people, and there's not a stiff among them, and Jennings ain't no slouch either.
Yeah, Jennings is very good. I mean, I as someone who has hosted a game show and as someone who's auditioned to host game shows, I couldn't shine his shoes with Jeopardy. He has a comfort. He's funny. He's everything. I think he's magnificent. My hat's off to him. So
he's a few IQ points above you and I, Mark.
Ain't it true? Bill, I love you jumping on for just a minute or two to discuss it, so thank you. All right, we'll look forward to the next time.
Tonight is the final.
Is the finale, right. Tonight is the finale.
Last 3. They eliminated 1 last night. So
all right, we won't say, but
no. It hasn't aired yet, so I can't say.
Okay. Yeah, you couldn't say if you wanted to. Bill Mann, everybody. Thank Bill.
You bet.
Yeah, I love it. Wow, that's
The Mark Thompson Show.
I do love that Jeopardy. It is terrific. And Albert, tell me where we are. You're the big producer.
Time for some news. We have a couple shout outs to get to in the next half hour. And you did tease some things that you didn't get to yet. So
what have I teased that I didn't get to, Albert? Do you recall what they are?
Some tech bros are leaving the Bay Area and
Good.
where they're going.
Good.
And you weren't going to quiz us on that. You were just going to tell us straight
That's
up.
right, where they're going. That's exactly right. And how it may not be a party where they're going. They may be leaving San Francisco for reasons associated with crime and, the disintegration of the city. But where they've decided to go may not be that much better. And Did I tease anything else, Albert, or not?
Yeah, you teased the driver who crashed near the White House.
Yes, thank you. That is exactly right, Albert. That is impressive. Albert, paying attention to the show today. It's really,
Albert, thank you.
I can tell he's back from vacation. You know,
you did mention NBA too, so if we have time, maybe we could touch on that too.
I love
Albert,
it.
thank
That
you.
is great. We'll do some NBA. Man, I'm excited about this last half hour. Let's make something good happen. Smash it
with your iron rod.
Smash it like a boss. Give me that thumbs up. Kim's News, and then, as we say, we'll get to some of those stories. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. A story we have been following here, a bill that would have required all Texas public schools to display the 10 Commandments prominently in every classroom.
Oh, yeah.
Has failed.
Oh.
Tuesday was the last
How
day
are we ever going to remember those 10 things? Only 2 of which really probably apply to anybody.
How are we ever going to not kill people unless we have it on a board in the classroom? I don't know. I don't know how that's going. Yeah.
Or the stealing thing. I got to remember, it's not, you're supposed to not steal, right? Thou shalt not. Right. That's it. Yeah, everything's thou shalt not.
And the coveting. Right. I mean, how,
everything's not thou shalt not, by the way, as you can see. Number 5 is honor thy father and thy mother.
I like that.
Number 4 is remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Then you get to the thou shalt not. So that's really a couple of thou shalt nots there, not to have any graven image, not take the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me. God really wants number 1 pole position.
Well, not in the classroom. He's not getting it. Because Tuesday was the last day to approve bills before the legislative session ends next Monday, and time expired before the
Sayonara, sucker!
could vote on the 10 Commandments bill. So if God had really wanted that, it would have happened.
Somebody's asking about adultery. So is adultery on now? Because it's not in the classroom, Robert. Please. How dare you?
Good to go, though. Everywhere else.
Yeah,
it's okay.
It's good. Green light.
Stealing, killing, plundering. Go for
wow.
it.
Who is having that conversation?
Anyway, well, there's always the next legislative session in Texas.
This is South Carolina's governor, Henry McMaster. The South Carolina Senate has passed a bill banning women in the state from getting abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. The legislation passed Tuesday. It's now headed to Governor McMaster's desk, who has said he will sign it. But the ban is likely to be challenged in court by abortion rights activists. So that is happening in South Carolina.
Yeah, it's a sign of the times. We talked about it a bit with John Rothmann. Yeah.
CDC issuing a food safety alert for a salmonella outbreak. It is linked to cookie dough from Papa John's. The health agency said Tuesday 18 salmonella infections were reported across 6 states, with 2 people winding up in the hospital.
That's not fake. That's real.
Yeah, people in California, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, and Missouri became infected after eating that cookie dough raw from Papa John's. So
there's nothing better than raw cookie dough. Let's be honest.
Well, it's a guilty pleasure.
I mean, it's positively spectacular.
You're not lying. Yeah.
And the reason you can get sick from it, even if there's not a salmonella infection in there or some kind of salmonella contamination, is because I think it's the egg, right? It's like the raw egg.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing to have the raw cookie dough. But now they make it, I think, Kim, where they literally make raw cookie dough for you to eat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a thing, raw cookie dough.
Well, and you have ice cream with cookie dough chunks in there.
Right.
So
Nick asks, okay, who buys cookie dough from Papa John's?
I mean, maybe you're in there getting your pizza and you see a giant bucket of cookie dough and you're thinking, well, that might be nice for dessert.
Kim is right. That's an impulse buy.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, it happens when you see that big bucket of cookie dough and you just can't resist. Don't get it at Papa John's for now. No can do. Make you sick, maybe. Okay, so let's move on with this story from San Francisco. We got more information expected today on a police chase that ended in a deadly crash in San Francisco. Check this out. What a scene. Officers were trying to stop a suspect yesterday who they say carjacked a city paint truck. But the driver ended up hitting an SUV and then spun into a bus stop in the Mission District where several people were waiting. One bystander died, 4 others were hurt. The impact also sent the truck into an auto parts store, blowing out the front windows. So SFPD expected to release more information on what exactly happened there today.
Oh my God.
I know.
That's
I know.
unbelievable.
1 minute you're waiting for a bus, the next minute a city paint truck comes spinning at you. Oakland police across the bay are closer to closing the case on 35 robberies this year alone. They arrested 9 children on Sunday after officers spotted a car connected to at least one crime. Some inside got out and went into businesses, others took off. They were all found quickly. 3 girls, 6 boys, ranging in age from 12 to 17. Police say robbery crews are brazenly victimizing people at alarming rates, up some 7% across the city of Oakland. So, yeah, can you believe that? They arrested children, 9 children for those robberies.
It
Amazing.
is, yeah, it's younger and younger, you know.
Let's talk about Uber as well. Here's a picture of the Uber sign. Uber plans to offer rides and delivery services using robo-taxis. Watch out, everybody. The plan comes through the partnership with Mountain View-based autonomous vehicle company Waymo. The driverless ride-hailing and Uber Eats services will begin later this year in Phoenix. So,
There's never been anything like this.
We'll see how that goes. And lastly, here's a story about our friend, our good friend Elon Musk. Yeah. Apparently, he might not be committed to keeping Twitter's headquarters in San Francisco. When asked during a panel discussion in London if he would keep Twitter in the city, Musk gave a non-committal answer. He moved Tesla to Austin, Texas, and Twitter hasn't paid rent on its 463,000 square foot space in San Francisco since Musk bought the company in October. So, and now he's not committing to whether or not he'll keep Twitter in San Francisco.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
He did move part of Tesla to Texas, but there's still the Fremont plant. But
yeah. So who knows where Twitter will go? And they auctioned off a lot of stuff in the building, even the bird sign.
Wow.
And the coffee maker, the espresso machine. It's all gone.
Once the espresso machines go, it is usually a sign
over.
that it's done. Yeah.
Wow. We still have our Mark Thompson Show espresso machine. We're very grateful for that.
Yes,
and
we are still on the air.
No, his show is crowdfunded, and that means we rely on you. So please check out the website, themarkthompsonshow.com. There, you shall find the Patreon and the PayPal links to join our community and to contribute. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, I'm for that.
Yes, I'm very unhappy with everything I've heard today on your show.
Thank you, Shirley. I love it. Yeah, I love it.
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It's the back 9. It's the final 20. Yeah, I'm excited as we slide into the last part of our show. Thank you for being here again. If you've joined late, we discussed a bunch of things with Spencer Christian, the award-winning broadcaster. He just won another award for his podcast. And we talked kind of about a bunch of things. We talked about Jim Crow South, but before that, we talked about his broadcast career. We had a lot of fun talking to him. Then segued into John Rothmann. We spoke politics. We talked about the debt ceiling, the general look of the field for the presidential run, and we even talked about the replacement of Diane Feinstein by Oprah Winfrey. So all of that there. Then we got into some Jeopardy talk, and now, Albert, you tell me, you're the big producer. You want me to talk about the millionaire tech entrepreneurs that are fleeing the city of San Francisco? Or would you prefer that I start with the kid who crashed into the White House?
I mean, I think we talked a little more about the tech bros leaving, so I think we should start there.
All right. That is what we're going to do then. Albert is in the captain's chair, and so I will respect his decision.
Albert, thank you.
San Francisco's millionaire tech entrepreneurs are quitting the city as crime and homelessness surge. I don't mean to say that with any mockery. It is true that crime and homelessness are surging in the city of San Francisco. Where are they going, you might ask? I mean, you're probably thinking, well, they're going to Texas like Elon Musk, or they're going to Florida because Florida lets you do whatever the hell you want. No. They are increasingly going to London.
What?
Yes. Many real estate brokers in London are saying the disenchanted West Coast tech execs are leaving San Francisco and going to London. A strong dollar is one of the reasons they're going. So the richness that they have in San Francisco, it's super richness in London.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, they're disenchanted with San Francisco generally. They don't like the rising crime, the homelessness, and the open-air drug use in San Francisco. Americans last year became the largest group of overseas buyers in prime central London, replacing buyers from another country. Can you think of what that country is? If you guessed China, give yourself points. Yeah, Chinese buyers used to be the top buyers of London real estate from overseas in terms of overseas buyers. Now Americans are.
So how does it work? Because you can buy property there, but it doesn't mean you can stay there indefinitely, right?
Well,
you have to, it doesn't matter how much money you have to have like a visa to stay and work and.
Well, I would say this about that. If you have enough money, the visa problem really isn't.
Okay.
When you say it doesn't matter how much money you have, oh, yes, it does. And if you have enough of it, the visa thing goes away as a problem. But you're right. You do have to have the immigration thing ironed out. So favorable exchange rates, dollar buyers really get a 30% bump on purchasing property. That's how powerful the dollar is right now. And the Instagram head, Adam Mosseri, made a high-profile move from the Bay Area to the Kensington neighborhood in London. And he's just one of many. Meta Chief's marketing officer, Alex Schultz, has relocated to the UK, lives on the West End in London. And the Meta executive, Sir Nick Clegg, the former British member of Parliament, returned to London, 3 years living in California. Decided he wanted to be closer to his parents. That doesn't really count as far as I'm concerned, because essentially he's a Brit who just moved over here. But you saw all those layoffs at Meta. There are a bunch of layoffs, administrative layoffs there. So we'll see how, that's the other thing that's happening in the tech community. It's constricting a bit.
James Holland says, there goes London.
Okay. Well, let me tell you about London. This place, they're fleeing the Bay Area because it's so bad in San Francisco. They're going to London. Crime is way up in London. They're having huge issues with crime in London. And public transport is a real issue. The tube and bus users in England are looking at real issues, especially when it comes to costs of public transportation. And there have been fare hikes, and there also have been strikes. They have a lot in the way of labor strikes there that do affect public transport. And you may say, well, these are rich guys. They're not affected by public transport. Yeah, but the general ease with which you can move through the city and through England is affected by strikes and by wage issues and by price hikes. So all of those things do matter. And as I say, in looking at crime rates in London, a crime increasing to, let's see, I'm looking at level of crime is considered high, 63.22%. This is a crime index. And crime in terms of home break-ins and things stolen is considered at a moderate level. Crime increasing is considered a high level, almost 70%. The level of crime is considered high at 63%. Safety walking alone during daylight is fine, but walking alone at night, safety is considered low. This is from a group of statisticians that puts together cost of living and property prices and quality of life, et cetera. So these percentages and these numerical values relate to that. But I guess what I'm just saying is it's a big city, and big cities have big city problems. Increasingly, it doesn't matter where you move in the world, you're going to endure a lot of the same issues that we have in the Bay Area and in California. So I think that is worth noting. But the tech bros are leaving. They've had enough, and they're not alone. And so that does affect the city and its tax base and all the rest. Meantime, on the other side of town, the driver who crashed near the White House told officials that he was prepared to kill Biden and seize power. He's a 19-year-old from Missouri. He drove a rented box truck into a White House barrier, told the authorities that he admires Nazis and wanted to seize power and, quote, kill the president. Sal Kandula of Chesterfield, Missouri, rented the U-Haul truck Monday night after flying from St. Louis to Dulles International Airport on a one-way ticket. The statement about what his intentions were was included with a criminal complaint charging him with depredation of property, which is depredation, strong, dingable word, and property of the United States in excess of $1,000. So he destroyed, essentially the thing he broke into. It happened at 9:35 in the evening. He drove the vehicle onto a sidewalk outside the White House and into a metal barrier just north of the White House. Kandula put the truck in reverse and crashed into the barrier a second time. That before the United States Park police officers took him into custody.
It was a picture of Mr. Kandula.
Yeah, and there's the U-Haul truck as well. When Secret Service agents asked Kandula about a flag with a swastika that he took from a backpack, he said he bought it online because Nazis have a great history, he said. He said he, quote, admires their authoritarian nature, eugenics, and their one world order. He says that Hitler he identifies as a strong leader. Kandula allegedly told authorities that he's been planning this attack for 6 months and detailed the plans in a, quote, green book. The stated goal was to get into the White House, seize power. This is a quote. Get into the White House, seize power, and be put in charge of the nation. Wow. He really had a plan, kind of flawed, I'd suggest. But when agents asked how Kandula would seize power, he stated he would kill the president if that's what I have to do, and would hurt anyone that would stand in my way. It's a quote. They say the teen was a chill guy when they go back and talk to his friends and family in that St. Louis suburb. They have no records, cops in Chesterfield, Missouri, of any interaction with Kandula or calls for service to the family home. Federal agents are in charge of this investigation. He was on the track team in high school.
I have a breaking news story, but before I do, I just want to let you know that last night at the Sacramento City Council meeting was kind of thrown into chaos after someone tried to speak. The council members say the speech was full of anti-Semitic remarks. And so this is just another situation where you have some anti-Semitic crazy getting up and doing that. The mayor of Sacramento says while bigots and racists have First Amendment rights to spew their hate, they have no right to incite violence. And they say if the disruptions continue, the city council might actually have to go back to doing Zoom meetings instead, or meeting by telephone instead of in public.
Wow.
Yeah, so just another case. But I do have some breaking news to report to you right now.
All
And
right.
that is that Tina Turner has passed away.
No, that's so sad.
She
She had
she
some
was
struggles
80.
with the health lately.
She did. She
83.
had some issues. She was 83 years old. Um, she died after a long illness at her home near Zurich in Switzerland. A statement saying she died peacefully at home, and that with her, the world loses a music legend and a role model. They're already planning a private funeral ceremony for close friends and family. Tina Turner has passed away at the age of 83. And what an artist and what an amazing singer and dancer and wonderful music she has left us with.
Well, I would play I'd play some kind of stuff from Tina Turner, but obviously, I can't do that for copyright reasons. But she triumphed over a brutal life with Ike Turner.
Yep.
And it's documented in so many different places, but I thought the documentary most recently done within the last 5 years, I want to say, really brought it home. And I think it was in the 5-year time frame. But she talks about, and you see, because they use a lot of archival stuff in interviews, I'm talking about archival interviews, you see how she can't escape the Ike Turner reputation. It's all people ask her about. So even as she had triumphed over it, got away from Ike Turner, reinvented herself. And the other thing about Tina Turner, and this is extremely important, she reconstituted herself as a solo artist at an older age. For a woman, particularly, not an easy thing to do. A lot of recording companies didn't want to go near her. I mean, it was very hard for Tina Turner to do what she did, which was to have this vibrant musical career independent of Ike Turner. And to constantly be asked about Ike and about the abuse, and it was something that haunted her through her entire life, even as she had completely, as I say, turned herself into a legend on her own. Then, of course, she was in the Mad Max movie, and she did things as an actress as well. But her performances were electrifying as a solo artist. And as I say, it's worth going back to watch that documentary on Tina. It's a real ride through her life, what she had to slug through, and also how she reinvented herself. And then you see, and they're in the documentary, as I recall, you see her life in Switzerland and her husband, and you see how she's tried to, in a sense, get these last days, these last few years, in some sort of quieter way to square with the rest of her life. She, to me, is a great story of triumph and talent, and it's a sad thing that she's passed away. Yeah. And, the pictures even just bring, that we're showing them on YouTube, they just bring to life, who she was. And by the way, I'll remind you, she took musically, a real aggressive tack when she went toward rock and roll.
Yeah.
She didn't just R&B it. She went rock and roll, and on stage with Mick Jagger. I don't know if you remember the Live Aid show, but she was brilliant in that. And she really did, I think, she reconstituted herself not only as a solo artist, but also in the music she did. I guess that might be the way to put it. Proud Mary. Yeah, heard Proud Mary.
I love that one. Some of her biggest hits, What's Love Got to Do with It, Private Dancer, and Simply the Best.
Yeah.
She won 12 Grammy Awards. She sold more than 180 million albums. She sold out stadiums on tour around the world for 3 decades. Oh.
Yeah, just an extraordinary artist. And again, she didn't have an easy go of it when she did leave Ike years ago. It's not that was a big move personally, and we've read so much and know so much about these abusive relationships, but she had the PTSD from that. And then she had the PTSD constantly, shall we just say, reignited by so many questions about her life with Ike. But then she had this challenge to succeed while she coexisted with this PTSD as a solo artist. And she did it, and she did it big. She was bigger as a solo artist than she ever was with Ike Turner.
Absolutely.
But
what a performer.
Practicing Buddhist, says Karen. She said it helped her leave her pain behind and move forward. She endured more than anyone will know. I think that's exactly right. That's a really good take. So, and yeah, she went around, man, she danced around stage in those heels.
Remember her, look at her legs. I mean, she
Her
had
leg-
the
oh, of
best
course.
legs. Yeah, she's
Exactly.
known for having she had her legs insured. They're so
Did
famous.
she?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really great. Huge in Europe, of course. Huge worldwide. She was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, says Randy. No.
One of the things I loved about her is that even as she got a bit older, in her 60s, she was still on stage rocking it, like, as good as anybody younger than her could, or better.
Exactly. And her energy was infectious. It was incredible. I saw her perform on the Ed Sullivan Show when I was a teen, says Rain. Instantaneously became a fan. Instantaneously is a ding word. She would open for Jagger when she first went out on her own. I didn't know that, Karen. That's good. That's good knowledge. Wow. Anyway, that's sad breaking news.
Yeah.
Still hot as an older woman. I agree. Yeah. She had ultimate heat, didn't she? This is a sad thing that Joseph says. My generation is rounding third and heading home. God. It's true. We're all rounding third. We all have to round third eventually, right? But what a ride. 83. That's sad, but so I really do recommend that film. It was I think it's only a couple of years ago, but it really takes you through her life and some of the challenges. And wow, yeah. Albert, what do we do now that Kim's brought the entire show to a halt? What do I do?
Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
We have a couple shout outs, and then it might be time to wrap up the show.
All right, Albert.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I hope Kim doesn't interrupt with another celebrity death before I can get to all of these. Kelly, of course, I hope I'm kidding. Somebody, Tim, it's weird, Kim, when I give you a hard time or something,
yeah.
I notice people really, sometimes it lands, people really, they just get all over me. Like they can't, you couldn't possibly kid around on the show. You have to always, how could you talk
You're
to
totally
Tim that
kidding.
way?
You would have been mad if I didn't talk
Oh
like
my
that.
God, yes.
Yeah,
Did Tina Turner die during the show and you didn't mention it?
Right.
Are you kidding? Yeah.
So
Well,
I know the drill. It's all right.
Yeah.
Kim, how are you?
All right. So anyway, that's that. All right. Now, Albert, sorry. What
Say thank you.
well, did I say Rand? Who was the first one I had there, Albert?
Kelly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kelly, big shout out.
out.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for the $5. Appreciate that. And Vicky and Sausalito early on
Nice.
shot us a super sticker for 20. Thank you. These super stickers and super chats, they really do matter. And so thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
David Mills. What up, David Mills? Thank you for the 20.
Thank you
to everyone today who's
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
much. Sometimes I like
Thank you very much.
Sometimes I like to.
Thank you so much.
I like to say so much. Thank you. Quit picking on Tim or Kim. Tim's the guy I see on Tuesdays. A couple of people came over here. I saw a great, Angela Bassett, great actress when she played Tina. That's exactly right.
In that movie. That was a great movie.
That was a
Biopic.
great movie.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think it was called What's Love Got to Do with It? Is that possible? Isn't that on?
Google it.
I don't know. Well, somebody can check it. Well, I was going to read you a couple of YouTube comments, but we don't really have time, so I don't know. I mean, I do my best. I really do my best, Albert. You know that. Kim, you're aware. We do our best here.
You do, and you do a really good job.
Well, thank you. I try, but I don't know. Sometimes
What?
I'm really proud of you.
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
Well, there is that. It's good to have him back in the lab.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Tomorrow, we are joined by, we do have some good guests tomorrow. We have Belinda with It's the Planet Stupid. And then who else do we have, Albert? Do you know?
David Katz.
Ah, that's right. David Katz, the world of the law. Looking very much forward to. Kim, are you with us tomorrow or not? I know you were talking about possibly not being here tomorrow.
You know, I was supposed to go on a school field trip, but because my son is sick, I'm not going on the field trip, so I'm here.
I love that.
Kim, how are you?
All right. Well,
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Johnson Show.
I know.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Thank you so much. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye.